Okay, it looks like we're live now, everybody. Hey, this is Long Dome today, LCA Live. We're going to be talking to Joel Rand, Chris Heller, and Howard Tager. I'll let them introduce themselves real quick, but myself, LabCoatAgent, moderator, broker with Realty Group in Minnesota with my business partner, Mike Wanier. I've been on a board member and executive member of my state association, and because of our size, we also have a board seat on the MLS. For us is North Star, past subscriber and clients of Zillow and Realtor.com, now current clients of YLocal. HomeSnap user, current believer, supporter, and advocates for broker public portal. This is why I'm on today, and I'm very interested in what's going on. I will have everybody introduce themselves. I'll start with our guest, Joel Rand, because he's to my left on my Zoom screen.
Hi, I'm Joe Rand. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of a brokerage in New York and New Jersey, Howard Hanna Rand Realty, but more principally for this purpose, I am the Executive Director of the Broker Public Portal, which is basically a nonprofit consortium of brokers and MLSs that's partnered with HomeSnap to make a portal available that does not have competitive advertising on it.
Okay, Chris is to my right. So Chris, you're next.
I'm Chris Heller. I'm currently the Chief Real Estate Officer at Ojo Labs. We're a technology startup in Austin, Texas. I've had a real estate team for 32 years, and in between all that stuff, former CEO of Mellow Home, Loan Depot Company, and of Keller Williams, and this is all I've known and done my entire adult life.
Awesome. Howard, last but not least.
Hey guys, Howard Tager, former founder and CEO of Tiger Lead Solutions, current CEO and co-founder of YLocal, which is, as you all know, Monopoly, the last 5 letters spelled backwards. I've had the pleasure of working very closely with Long and with Tristan, who's not on the call, and also been a pleasure getting to know Chris. Don't know Joe yet, but going to meet Joe on this call. I reached out to Chris actually to pull him on board because he's just a great resource for our community, incredibly knowledgeable about how the workings of everything. So really excited to have Chris join us today and dig in a little bit.
Awesome. So as the moderator, my job to moderate, and I know with the people I have on here, I will have to do very little speaking. So I'm going to turn it over and let Howard and Chris fire away and see if we can get Joel to share some awesome information.
Well, I think we would encourage, we would encourage a lot of questions if we can get them, from the audience. Start, asking your questions in chat or in Q&A. Everyone's kind of read the headlines about, CoStar, which is the dominant player in commercial real estate and has a giant presence in apartments and is making obvious dedicated foray into residential for purchase real estate with a number of different activities. So, Chris, I can start it off. If you'd like to start it off with a question, it's up, however you want to do it.
Sure, I'll start off with a question. And Joe, it's a question for you and the members and board of the BPP. One is just curious, were you guys made aware of any of this prior to it happening?
No, there was a very closely held situation within HomeSnap. And, just to be clear, the Broker Public Portal, the BPP, has no ownership interest in HomeSnap, has no particular hierarchical presence within HomeSnap. So no, we were not. I found out about it when it broke on Sunday, right before Thanksgiving.
Right. And when it was communicated, I'm asking questions that are kind of obvious, but the ones that are popping into my head now. I assume that when it was communicated, there was no information, and correct me if I'm wrong, as to how it could impact anything that has been in play or been worked on with HomeSnap.
Well, I think to answer your question, here's what I would say is that just first of all, I have no exclusive knowledge or inside knowledge of any sort about the deal or about CoStar's plans. Just so everybody understands, BPP is in a joint venture with HomeSnap to promote HomeSnap as the quote unquote broker public portal, which is a portal that abides by fair display guidelines. So we have a partnership with HomeSnap, but again, we don't have ownership with HomeSnap, and we don't have any relationship right now with CoStar. So I have no particular insight on what they're doing, but I do know the CoStar relation. I do know the HomeSnap relationship with BPP. And the thing that I think most people, what they need to understand is that that's a contractual relationship, a JV agreement, and there are contractual provisions in that which guarantee that HomeSnap will act accordingly to the fair display guidelines, and those contractual provisions survive an acquisition. They were anticipated that there might be an acquisition of HomeSnap, that they were always venture funded, that they would at some point be sold. I don't have any specific knowledge as to what CoStar's intentions might be, but from somebody who's aware of what's going on, I can tell you that it would not involve changing the nature of what HomeSnap does with regard to, at least with fair display.
Yeah. Howard, you and I had a conversation right when the news broke. I think you were, I forget, we were both in different places. But anyways, you called and I remember we chatted and you had some good thoughts and some questions that we bounced off each other. One of the thoughts you had was, this is potentially bigger news than a lot of people realize. And I was wondering if it's something you want to expand on or share some of those thoughts. I think it could create some things that we could actually.
Well, I went back and read the mission statement on the Broker Public Portal website. And Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know, a tenth of what you know or a hundredth of what you know about the Broker Public Portal. I have just guesses. So, but it seemed like it was really a reaction to sort of the Zillows and Realtor.coms of the world and what was going on there, and sort of say, hey, we're going to take our data back in some way and create a national portal where we can control kind of what happens. My question, a little bit of a technical question, which is, I would assume that in your deal with HomeSnap, that there's a change of control provision where if there is a technical change of control of the ownership of HomeSnap, you guys would have the right to pull the MLS data. That's the first question.
Just by virtue of just a simple change of control like this, no, there's no right of termination and no right to pull the data. Now the data is not it's coming from the MLSs. It's coming from individual MLS agreements between HomeSnap and individual MLSs. And those agreements, they're negotiated separately and individually. And so some of them may have particular provisions in them, but I don't know of any change of control provision that by its very nature says that any sale of HomeSnap triggers any particular rights or responsibilities. No, I don't know. I don't know of that. And I probably would know of it if they were in place. They're definitely not in place.
Well, I think the big change is that, if you're a provider, right, and you're in let's say a three-way IDX agreement with a local MLS, right, you're precluded, you're not allowed to mingle that data feed with any other data feed in the other parts of the country. The Broker Public Portal says, okay, we have all of our members, we're basically joining all the feeds, so we've created basically a national portal, and there's very few of them. And you work with HomeSnap and said, here's the boundaries and here's what we're going to do. And this is how it benefits the community. And you knew you were dealing with them. Now they are no longer in control of HomeSnap. There is a $36 billion gorilla that now has basically with a $250 million stroke of a pen, now has a national data feed. So it just seemed, and maybe I'm missing something, it seemed ironic that what was originally done as a reaction to multi-billion-dollar companies having control of your data and doing what they want with it, now this has resulted in potentially down the line. Now, again, we understand like you guys have promised not to do the type of advertising that Zillow and Realtor do, right? Where you think you're talking to a listing agent, you talk to a buyer's agent. But at the end of the day, right, CoStar, needs to and should, it's a publicly traded company and needs to grow, is going to need to figure out how to get a return on this investment and make money from it. And the question is like, how do they do that, right? So I've packed a lot in there, but it's at some point it seems like they have to make money from the brokerage community who owns the listings.
Yeah, but that I'm just saying, according to the agreements that we have, they cannot use the data except to service the broker public portal. Neither HomeSnap nor anybody who acquires HomeSnap can use that data for anything that's not countenanced within the agreement. So, I've heard people speculate, for example, that, well, what CoStar really wants is they want a list of all the real estate agents in the country so they can start marketing to pull them out and pull them into their own MLS or something like that. And the answer is that that would violate the terms of the data agreement that they have with each individual MLS. And although we're calling it a national broker public portal, just realize it's really like 250 individual portals that are grouped together, because each MLS controls their data. Each broker controls their data according to the rules of the fair display that HomeSnap has with BPP. So we might be getting a little into the weeds on some of the data, which is not necessarily my strongest suite. So forgive me, Howard.
Yeah, no worries.
But
at a high level, bringing it up to a high level, what's your theory about how does, and it's very possible they can do this, how does CoStar get a return on its investment, right? How does it make money from this transaction that also helps the, let's say, brokerage and agent and MLS community?
HomeSnap's business model right now, they have two streams of revenue. They get revenue from the subscription revenue from MLSs that sign on, but a much larger stream of revenue over the last 3 years as it's been growing is from premium services, largely marketing services to market to Google, Waze, Facebook, Instagram, to like market listings. And that's become a bigger part. It's a lower margin business, I think, but it's a bigger part of the overall revenue stream that HomeSnap generates. But they are getting just the tiniest fraction of agents. I wouldn't say of agents participating, but of the listing load that's there in terms of what's being advertised. And I personally feel, again, coming from an informed but not inside information perspective, that what CoStar sees is a much larger potential to be doing much more advertising at a much higher level than what HomeSnap is doing. And on top of that, I believe that what I understand is that there are tools that HomeSnap has developed, particularly with regard to social media advertising, that CoStar doesn't have. So they're gonna, by owning that technology, they'll be able to leverage it for their commercial brokers to be able to make more money by marketing services to commercial brokers. The thing that people that seem to gloss over immediately when they start looking for like the three-dimensional chess that might be going on here, that let's start first with the single-dimensional chess, which is that CoStar makes money right now by getting brokers to pay for marketing services to market their listings to each other and to the end user, which is exactly, HomeSnap makes its money by selling marketing services to market listings to end users. So there is an alignment with what they do. And to me, it makes a lot of sense that CoStar would get into that business, seeing the potential to grow that business with their expertise, and also take some of the technology that HomeSnap has and import it into CoStar, that those businesses are aligned. That I don't think you need to make money on this deal. I don't think that they need to transform what HomeSnap is or destroy the business model that HomeSnap has developed.
And again, how do you feel that it benefits the brokerage, agents, and MLS community?
Well, I would say this, that, right now HomeSnap is not in every market in the country, and it would be great if we were. One of the things that I'm trying to do, one of my jobs, is to try to promote it to get MLSs that have not yet signed an agreement with HomeSnap to sign it. Because there are brokerages like mine where HomeSnap is in like 90% of my market, but it's not in 100%. And if it's not in 100% as a broker, and I've got 1,200 agents, I can't be going to my agents and promoting a tool that not all of them can use. If even like 10% of them can't use it, and I go in front of a big meeting or a virtual meeting or whatever today, and I say, hey, we really want to start promoting HomeSnap's social media marketing. And they say to me, well, I can't use it because it's not in my MLS. It's a problem. And virtually, every one of the top 150 brokers in this country are in multiple MLSs. And a lot of them, a big group of them, are in MLSs that some of them, at least once, it might be a small one, is not in the broker public portal, is not signed up with HomeSnap. So in my mind, having more resources that CoStar will bring will help us grow that and grow the footprint and be able to then sell more premium services to those agents, which again, entirely voluntary. HomeSnap and HomeSnap Pro are free to agents. You charge the subscription fee to the MLS, and then the agent gets it for free, but can upgrade to then, advertise their listings and things like that. And I think that there will be more opportunity to do that. How does it help the consumer? Well, I think HomeSnap's a good product. I think it's an advertising-free product for the consumer. It's an advertising-free product for the broker. So the more it expands and the more people it reaches, the better it is for the consumer, better it is for the industry.
Hey, Joe, so for those who don't have HomeSnap or maybe don't even know what HomeSnap is, don't use it, can you explain that, like what it is and what it does? I know you kind of touched on that a little bit.
I mean, listen, when they approached me about doing this, taking this job, HomeSnap is basically a portal much like Zillow or Realtor.com or any of them. But the difference is that when you see a listing on HomeSnap, you will see information for either the listing agent, or if you were invited into HomeSnap by your own buyer agent, you will only see the contact information for your buyer agent. You might see, there might be contact information listed for the listing agent depending on the MLS rules, but you'll be, your click here to talk to somebody, you'll talk to your own agent, or you'll go direct to the listing agent. And that's the promise that HomeSnap has. And that's the deal that they made with BPP to get BPP's, stamp of approval to expand throughout the country, which they've, proceeded to do. I mean, they've grown quite a lot since we did that deal. So it's like, and what I was saying is when I did this deal, took the offer to come work with them. Before I did it, I pulled out Zillow on one phone, I pulled out HomeSnap on the other, and I laid them down side by side and worked on them to see how they compared. And what I found was that I thought HomeSnap was very comparable. I even had to take Post-it notes and put them above the phones because I kept forgetting what display I was in. Because once you're looking at pictures and stuff, you can't really tell which app you're in. I think HomeSnap's a really good app. I think it's very competitive. It's very highly rated within the App Store. I think it does everything the other portals do. It just protects the listing agent's integrity. It protects the buyer agent if the buyer agent invites the client into the app. And it's very consumer oriented because in my mind, I don't think the consumer is well served when they're looking at a listing and they want to find out more about that listing. But instead of getting the person who actually listed that property who can answer the question about the pool or about the basement or about whatever, they get redirected to someone who has never even seen that listing, most likely. And I think I think it's a better experience. And I recognize that's what we're trying to achieve. That's what we're trying to build here. And that's what HomeSnap now provides that. It's just a matter of getting into every market in the country.
Okay. Chris, what do you think?
What I'm thinking about is a question I have, and this could be for any of you guys. How does CoStar provide a compelling reason for me to spend money with them? What would they have to do for it to be so compelling that I say, I'm now going to spend money with this company to market or advertise that I wasn't spending before, or that I was spending with someone else?
You mean like through HomeSnap or with CoStar separately? You mean within HomeSnap?
CoStar owns HomeSnap now, but whether it's through CoStar's some new product they bring to the industry, or if it's them leveraging HomeSnap to do that.
There's nothing revolutionary I'm going to tell you in terms of what they would say to do. It's that, I mean, the honest truth is that the vast majority of real estate agents in this country right now are not doing social media marketing for their listings. They take the listings and they don't do anything to market those listings. They post the listing, a link to the listing on their Facebook page, but they're not doing any paid marketing. And part of the reason is that it's complicated to do it. If you do it, if you don't really know your way around it and you're trying to figure out the advertising platforms on these sites, it's complicated. And so there are a number. HomeSnap has a great tool for advertising on what I said, the big four, the Google, Waze, Facebook, and Instagram. They have a great tool. It's like a tap, 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 and the listing goes out. And because the way they do the purchasing, you get a lot of bang for the buck. And the ad is, the secret sauce is the way that they set up the ad to hit the right demographic and to have the right phrasing and whatnot. So they do that. And And I think they do it very well. I think there are other companies that also do it that would say that they do it well, but yeah, that's where you would want people to spend money. And I think the real issue to me, Chris, is that, we should be doing that marketing. I mean, real estate agents should be doing that marketing. That's where people are living right now, particularly today. They're living on these social media channels that I think it's a good service to put in. It's very cost effective. You can target it very effectively. It's good advertising to do. And not enough agents are doing it because they don't know how. And one of the things that I think HomeSnap does effectively is it takes out I don't know how to do this, because it really makes it god awfully simple to figure that out and to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think a lot of agents don't, if they don't have a very good grasp of it, they tend to just not do it at all. I also think we're in a market where there's a lot of agents that go, hey, if I'm not going to generate significant leads or quality leads, or knowing myself, if I'm not going to follow up with them, hey, I'm not doing it to sell my property because it's going to sell anyways. So
Sure.
The market might be impacting those numbers of agents that are not doing it.
But no, that's possible. I do think, though, that, I mean, if I'm an agent, I have a listing, the first thing I want to do is market that listing, not necessarily to sell the listing, but because the best marketing I can do for myself is the marketing that puts my face on a property for sale, not just for the leads that it will generate for me, but just to let people know, hey, I list properties, I take beautiful pictures, I do all that stuff. Yeah. That to me is the best marketing I can do for myself.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I use that company. What's it called? Ylopo, on my real estate team. So for those reasons.
Well, like I said, it's obviously a need that people have recognized. So there's lots of companies that are addressing it, and I think some of them do it extremely well. And my point, and I think that the value that HomeSnap brings is that it's integrated into what you're working on. And this is not to, I mean, like I said, there's lots of people that do it. I mean, there's a bunch of companies that compete in the space because it's a space that there's need for. The agents should be doing more of this, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think to understand CoStar, you understand they don't do anything small. Like whatever they do is going to be massive, right? So, in the commercial space, like they acquired LoopNet. If you want to advertise your building, you want to advertise your office, that's where you are. There are no choices. In residential, can't turn on the TV without seeing Jeff Goldblum and seeing apartments.com, right? Did amazing. And, hats off to them. They've done an incredible job in both spaces. So the reason why Chris and I, in our private chat say this is bigger news than people know and understand is because they're not coming into the space to dabble. That's for sure, right? And I think you would agree with that. So one sort of fun question for you, Joe. And by the way, I agree with everything you've said. Agents don't spend enough, marketing their listings. It's a great opportunity for them to market themselves. Totally agree with you. It's unfortunate. You go to a Zillow or Realtor.com, you think you're talking to the listing agent. You're not, right? And everyone's written down. You guys have promised that's not going to happen. But within, let's say, 36 months, 3 years time, do you think CoStar, through whether it's the HomeSnap brand or any other brand that it owns, because I don't believe it's necessarily stopped its M&A activity in the space, do you think it will give Zillow/Trulia, Realtor.com a run for their money? Do you think they will in some way, shape, or form be a top 3, if not number 1 portal in terms of monthly unique visitors in the space?
Let me put it this way. I got a lot of grief a couple months ago when I was quoted in Inman that when I took this job 2 months ago, that I said that the goal was to make HomeSnap the top search website for real estate. And I said that before I knew anything about CoStar. So do I think it's possible? Yeah, I thought it was possible before this. I certainly think it's possible now, because I think that, I don't think it's a low ambition. I mean, I'm only pushing back on the idea that, well, CoStar must have other things in mind, because if all they want to do is just blow up HomeSnap to be one of the top 2 or 3 portals and to compete with the likes of Realtor.com and Zillow on the portal end for the marketing dollar, that's not a ambitious enough enterprise. I think that's certainly ambitious enough. I think that would be
I think
very
it's
interesting.
really misconstrued. What we're saying, Chris and I are saying, is that's amazingly ambitious.
Yeah, well, I think that's hugely ambitious. And
I was just saying is, do you think in the next 36 months, do you think, or whatever that is, whatever time period, do you think at some point they're in the top 3 trafficked real estate search, national search bureaus?
There are, well, put it this way, there are markets that HomeSnap is in right now where it's extremely competitive in terms of lead generation because we track it with ListTrack. It's competitive with all of those sites, with second always to Zillow, but competitive with all the second, number 2, number 3, number 4 in a lot of markets where HomeSnap is well established. Listen, I think one of the things that HomeSnap has been missing is had no consumer advertising campaign at all. All of the marketing has been done through the real estate agents, which I think is very efficient because it's a lot easier to market to 1.2 million real estate agents than to 300 million consumers. But there is some scale that you want to try to reach by marketing. So I don't know, are we going to get our own Jeff Goldblum for HomeSnap and he'll be on TV doing ads with snappy dialogue? I don't know. But my feeling is that
Chris and I are laughing. We're saying there's no doubt you will. You're going to drive massive MUVs. And
I mean, that might be the case. My point is only to say that the people that keep looking around behind the deal to see what's the real play here, I'm like, why can't the real play be to be the next Realtor.com, the next Trulia, to be a top 3 portal? That to me is a pretty ambitious play. And I don't think you need to, we're going to we're going to create a new nationwide MLS. I don't see why they'd want to do that. I don't see why if they wanted to do that, they would buy HomeSnap and get basically a website and a company that all the MLSs are their clients. And that's the only way they have all the listings is through the MLSs. And they have this whole set of agreements with BPP, which would be a real thorn in their side. They could buy 10 other sites if they wanted to get in to do that. So I don't think that's, and then the idea is they want to be the next Zillow. Well, the problem and what was referred to before, the idea that, the industry has been burned before. We got burned by Realtor.com, can't get the name back. We got burned by Zillow when they did the pivot to becoming a brokerage. I get it. It's like, we're like a boyfriend that the girlfriend left us and she cheated on us and she took grandma's wedding ring and she sold off my dog. And now I'm burned and now I don't want to commit to anybody. I don't want to settle down. I can't trust anybody anymore. And the point is, at the very least, that what HomeSnap can't do is it can't become the next Zillow, because the thing that everybody gets irritated about Zillow is the competitive advertising, and HomeSnap cannot do that. Can't do it. Not going to happen. That's what the agreement is there. And the agreement is locked. And the people that enforce the agreement from BPP are all people from brokerages and people from MLSs.
So, well, first of all, Joe, sorry to hear about the dog. And
I'm channeling some history, I guess, in all that.
Joe, I think you're thinking this is a like, you may have been experiencing some bad stuff over the last few weeks. We're a very friendly panel. We brought you on just to find out more, but you seem very agitated.
I've been getting a lot of calls. It's put it this way. I went 3 months ago. I start. And then I take a lot of guff about the idea that I said that we could compete with Zillow. I think Greg Robertson, my friend, really smart guy, said that I had to be high when I said that. So then fast forward to the CoStar announcement, and now all the smartest people are talking about how, well, this is, HomeSnap's now going to become the monster that devours us all. It's like we went from being like the skinny kid on the beach getting the sand kicked in our face to now we're the bully. We never had any kind of stop in between. So I guess I'm just trying to get across the idea that, like what you said, which is that it's a pretty grand ambition to take HomeSnap and make it a top 2, top 3, top portal for real estate search.
I don't think there's anyone, well, at least on this call, that thinks it's other than that. I mean, at least I'm not going to speak for Chris or for Long. I mean, my view is that, similar to the insurance industry, there's an oligopoly of people that dominate the attention of the consumers, right? There's Allstate and State Farm and Liberty, and you cannot turn on TV or a sporting event and not see an insurance commercial, right? And I always tell the same boring story, which is before Geico ran its first caveman commercial, nobody knew Geico's name. They didn't know it sold insurance to government employees. GEICO, that's what they did. And someone said, well, we built the infrastructure, we built the underwriting, let's sell insurance to everybody, right? And so Caveman, Gecko, the best commercials in the round, and now they're part of that oligopoly. And I think personally where I sit, I think it's a matter of, you will take market share from Zillow, you will take market share from you're shuffling the deck a little bit. And if you guys are saying, because Joe, you're very passionate about it, which is what the community wants to hear, you're very passionate, you're like, we're not going to do the type of advertising that Zillow does. We're not going to become a brokerage. We're not going to break that. We're not going to break those promises. And we're not going to trade off of a brand name that we kind of engineered in a back room that should be right, not theirs, right? And I think that you're saying, look, we're going to shuffle the deck. And I think what you're saying is we're going to shuffle the deck, but we're going to do it to help the industry and not break some of those promises and do it as a good citizen. And I don't think you're even saying there, or anyone's saying that there's ever going to be a monopoly now. The data, the difference between here and commercial is here the data is, I get a listing, I put it in, it gets syndicated out to 1,000 sites. That ship has sailed, that ship's not coming back. The government's not going to let that come back. In other words, it's protected. Commercial's a different space, right? And so yeah, I think we're kind of all saying the same thing. That what I get back to is I'm just a realist. I'm just a realist. I'm a follow the money guy. There's no conspiracy here. They're doing what they should do. CoStar is doing what it should do as a publicly traded company, which is increase the value to its shareholders. HomeSnap is doing what it should do. Okay, I'm going to now ally with someone who's got deep pockets, can help us now compete with Zillow and bring, a great service, which is what you're saying is, and what others have said is a great service, HomeSnap, to the community. There's nothing wrong with that. The reality though is that, as a company, CoStar will have to get a return on its investment. It will have to increase the price of its stock. It's got to increase the value to its shareholders. And that was really just the question. It's not this, I think you've been beaten up before this panel. We're not here to beat you up. We're here to just find out in that vision, right? How does it do that? How does it achieve that? How does it grow a massive business, but also help the brokers and the MLSs who are part of the broker public portal, who partnered with HomeSnap, and it's now led as a fully owned CoStar property. That's all we were trying to question.
And which begs another question is, do they need to? Do they need to help agents, the brokerages, everything else? And I think that's debatable. Howard, I got a question that I'm curious to hear your answer on. If you're running CoStar, HomeSnap, whatever the brand is called at that point, and you have now established yourself as the number 1 or 2 or 3 portal in the country, what's your economic model? How are you monetizing that?
That's what I'm asking Joe. That's basically what I'm asking Joe. I think and honestly, I think Chris, you have the same idea that I have, which is at the end of the day, they'll be sitting on a mountain of data, and data is incredibly valuable. Now, if you can make it a win-win, and this is a massive spreadsheet exercise, right? Because going into the generating the monthly unique visitors that you have to generate, if an insurance company stops advertising, they're dead. Like, no one's going to the strip mall to visit your insurance company. You have to spend every day, every week, every month. And they know down to the penny, right? That ROI on that advertising spend. And CoStar knows this. They know what, if they stop running, Jeff Goldblum ads, what happens in the apartment space, right? But so, they are infinitely smarter than I am. They have, this is a big investment. Like, this is a massive investment, $250 million, a big number. I think that they've figured it out. And I think that the question is that, that everyone really has, is can they do it in a way? So for example, okay, Realtor and Zillow, right? We're trying to make money selling ads multiple times, right? I fill out a home, I'm interested in a home on realtor.com. I fill out home A. Now I go I like B, I fill out that form. I like C, I fill out that form. Guess what? I just got sold 3 times. Okay. So we're just realists, right? You and I, Chris, like, there's just economic models where you get an ROI on that massive spend you have to keep doing or not. And I think eventually we're seeing them move markets to this kind of brokerage type market. Realtor.com is partnered, massive 220 whatever $1 million investment in Op City, right? They're moving in the same model. They're slowly moving markets over to hey, we're going to take 35% of the commission split. If we sell you a lead, it's your lead, Chris, right? But if we tell you, Chris, you don't have to pay for this lead, but you got to give us 35%, that portal owns that lead now. And guess what? They have figured out, well, it's been an okay business at Realtor.com, or it's been an unprofitable business at Zillow. We need ancillary revenue streams. We need mortgage. We need title. We need escrow. We need moving. We need all this other stuff. We want all this data, right? That we can basically figure out how to monetize. So it's a very, very complicated answer and spreadsheet. I am convinced, understanding the history of CoStar, they are an extremely smart company. They have not done this like on a whim, like let's see if this works. Yeah. Like they have sophisticated modeling where they know that this can work. The real question always eventually becomes is, because they have to make money, right? They can't sell it 3 times to these buyer agents who want to get the leads as a listing agent. They can't become a brokerage. They can't get 35% commission splits. So what's the model, right? The model has to be in some way, shape, or form. One, they are going to continue to sell to let's say brokers and agents, and hopefully there's a great ROI for the brokers and agents who are buying that service. As Joe would say, there's a great ROI for those folks buying HomeSnap. As I would say, there's a great ROI buying Ylopo, right? So that's okay if it's a win-win. If they become a fabulous outsourced marketing and a fabulous data source for brokerages, and the people that are paying in feel like they're winning, that's great. If not, if it's just like, shit, I gotta pay again, for, even though when I upload my MLS, like it goes out to 1,000 sites for free, but now I gotta pay here and I have no choice, then the industry is they're gonna look back and say, wasn't so great for us, was great for CoStar. So that's just a kind of a jury's out. And I think we all hope on this call, as I'm sure Joe would, that it becomes a win-win.
Yeah, I would.
We got a few more minutes left, so Joe, I'm going to kind of wrap up with some stuff, unless Chris and Howard, you guys have more questions. One thing I do want to end up, if possible, is awesome. We're talking so high level. I'd like to also bring it back down. If I was just one of 130,000 members, just a solo agent, I'm not a business owner or team leader or broker, how would this whole thing affect me as an agent? So I'd like to finish with that as well when you're done responding, Joe.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, the reason I got involved with HomeSnap was that I saw HomeSnap as, and its linkage with the BPP a year and a half ago, when I started going around the country doing a lot of talks to brokers about disruption. How do you push back? How do you find your value proposition? And what I saw was that the brokers were so stretched and the agents were so stretched, and there's so much competition. There's a lot of funding coming in that's competing with them. And all of that. And I saw HomeSnap as this white knight, this opportunity, this company that, because of its relationship with BPP, couldn't be evil to the industry, had to abide by certain, precautions, protections. And they have this really great product, and the product works on the front end for consumers, but also has all these great tools for agents, which are all bundled in with the HomeSnap Pro, with the opportunity to then build on that to do the advertising and things like that. That I saw them have a unique opportunity to help everybody. So for example, if I'm a broker, I'm spending all this money, and I have to spend money to have an app, and that money, that's costing me a ton of money, and it's not as good as Zillow, and it's not as good as Realtor.com's app. And so I have an app that I'm putting money into, which is inferior to what's on the market. Well, HomeSnap is as good as their app from the perspective of, when my clients go to the app, all they see is my branding. When my clients are there, they only see my branding. When people see my listings on HomeSnap, they only see my listing agent. So it's as safe for a consumer as my own app would be, but it's 1,000,000 times better than the app that I could build. And that saves me money. That's something that helps me as a broker or helps me as an agent, that I don't have to build something because I can't compete anymore as a broker. Like, my company is one of the top 75, 80 companies in the country. We couldn't compete, starting 4 or 5 years ago with technology, with what was coming out. We used to have our in-house technology company. We couldn't. We had to start to go outside to bring in the technology, which cost us a lot of money. And we're, and then there's 1,000 brokers out there that are behind us, which have even fewer resources. So how do you compete? How do you do that? And I thought HomeSnap was in a real prime position to be able to provide that. So, I would just say, if you're in a market, if you're an agent that's in a market that has it, just check it out, try it, play with it. It's a tool. It's free to you if it's in your market. If it's not in your market, then you got to talk to your MLS about trying to get it in there. But I think that to go to the overall point that you were making, Howard, about why CoStar would do this, is that you have an opportunity to put your money into the app that is the ally of every broker and MLS in the industry. Like, you can bet against the industry, and there are certainly people that are putting a lot of money down to bet against the industry. Or you could say, let me bet with the industry and see if I can be their ally and get a lot of their marketing dollars channeled through me, the way that it used to get 20 years ago, 25 years ago, used to get channeled into the newspapers. Now let's see if we can channel it into CoStar and HomeSnap. And that's what I think they're trying to do. My opinion.
Okay, any other last parting comment before we wrap this up? This has been awesome. Chris?
Well, I'm just addressing, what you asked right before, Joe shared his thoughts. As an agent, I'm going to have another place for me to spend advertising dollars. And as Howard said earlier, hopefully it's one where I'm going to be compelled to do it because my consumers are there, my sellers are there, they want to see their property there, and I get a good return for doing it. If not, it's not going to feel very good to me.
Thanks, fair.
Joe, I want to say thanks, man, for coming on. You rival my passion. I've been called the passionate one, but I think I said you've been beaten up a little bit. Our job here was not to beat you up at all.
No, you didn't.
Our job here was just to learn more, and I think you did a great job to educate, the community. It'll get played a lot in the community. I think what resonated with me was your passion around HomeSnap, and the value that it provides to agents and brokers. I'm on the same thing, we are an outsourced marketing technology company. We work with the largest teams, in the world. We're moving into the brokerage space next year. Our job is our mission is to partner with real estate teams and brokerages to power them against the big portals. That's our job. That's our mission. And every dollar you spend with a portal goes to advertising their brand. Every dollar you spend with me, goes to advertising the Chris Heller brand, right? Or RG. Consumers don't know us, right? It's all about advertising their brand and their listings. And we have the Diva listing rocket for their listings, which is, but we hear about things in the market, and I can tell you, I've heard nothing but great things about HomeSnap. About the tool and about the app. So I think you're passionate about a really great tool, and you're excited that there's a very deep-pocketed company coming in to help promote that tool. And I think that we just all hope, having seen what some of the other big players have done in the space, which is to wrestle commission dollars and control of the consumer eyeballs away from agents and brokerages. Chris and Long and I are crossing our fingers that you guys can be true to the mission to keep the brokers and teams brands front and center, and not all of a sudden some third portal that's controlling stuff. And it sounds like, based on what you said, we have a lot more confidence after our call today than maybe we did prior to the call. So I just want to thank Joe for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's nice to hear there are people that we're all fighting the same fight. We're all out there, I think, trying to empower the individual real estate agent, the individual real estate broker. You're doing with Wailopo, with Ojo Labs. I know Chris for years fought that fight. I mean, did so much to empower agents when he was with Keller Williams so successfully. Long's he's on the front end. He's on the front lines. The way I used to be more full time, and now I still am a little bit. It's good. I like the fight, and I like having allies in the fight. So thank you guys.
The cool thing is Chris is too. Chris is,
still running his team.
His team, and
he's still on top of that giant team of his. I know.
Best way to know the business, right?
That's true.
Well, also thank you, Long. Thanks for putting this together. Thanks to LabCoatAgents. I think this was really, really informative, and hopefully, Joe, we get to come back and visit with you again and see how things are progressing.
And someday, hopefully, we get to have a drink together at a conference when we go back to that part of our lives again.
That would be awesome, man. And maybe we'll do a Zoom before that.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody. Good thing to be the last webinar. We definitely ran over to the 130,000 plus member LCA. If you get a chance, watch the whole thing. You guys don't even realize how this could affect your professional career. So definitely learn more. And if you have questions, post on Facebook when you see the post, and we might go back to Joe or Howard or Chris and get them to respond. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Bye.
great day.